Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. How can I help you today? What questions do you have?
Yeah, so I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things I guess the first question is do you when we pull the lists up on Privy, does it also would it also include the phone numbers or no for the agents?
No, no. What you're gonna do is if you have an agent that's on a listing, this has to do with our MLS agreements. Um, at the bottom of any listing or any sold property that sold on the MLS, the agent info will be at the bottom if they allow us to show it. I think in CRMLS, a couple others, they don't let us show it,
Hmm.
but it's going to be at the bottom. And then you're just going to do a quick Google search of that person's name and you'll find an email address
Okay.
uh,
Got
um, and a phone number typically. So it's typically either down here at the bottom
it.
or it's underneath the photo, depending on where the MLS wants us to put it.
Okay. Gotcha. And when the agent appears on the like the top left side, is that a buyer's agent?
It could be either agent. So these are agents that are investor friendly and they could help you buy properties, sell properties. They typically will fill out their profile and let you know what their expertise is.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
And
Okay.
their phone numbers and stuff are in their profile. It's just the ones for the listings, you have to go one more step and Google it.
Okay. Gotcha. Um, yeah, that was like the one of the top burning questions right off the bat right there. So, yeah, nice to meet you, by the way.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. Nice to meet you too. Appreciate you being here. Cool. So let's see. Drew, we don't currently have Privy set up to search for land. If you type in, if you have the actual address of land, you will find it usually in our database, but we don't have a filter set up for land right now. So the property types you can do are single family, attached, condo, and multifamily. If you have a list of, if you have a property address, I could type it in just to see, but I have done that before in the past and it did bring up the public record data on it. But you're not going to find quote unquote land deals using our filters, at least not right now. All right. Any other questions? Well, I'll do some kind of standard training for everyone today. And if a question does pop up, feel free to stop me when I'm mid-sentence or just drop it in there. That way we can get context around what your question is and we don't have to wait till the end. But this is the Privy dashboard. Actually, let me get a sense of the group here. Who here is brand new? I recognize some names here, um, but some people who's brand new and who has is basically just a beginner.
At
Okay.
Privy or wholesaling.
Well, Privy in general. We'll talk because we'll talk about using the tool more than we will about strategy today.
Okay.
Cool. Bruce, I love it. New Jersey rookie. All right. Cool. So when you first log in, let me just kind of back out here. So this over here on the left is the main navigation. This is where you're going to find the majority of all the different categories of functions. At the bottom is this privy coverage. So if you ever, when you first log in, you're going to see this map coverage. This tells you where our data sources are located. The ones that are blue are the ones that where we have direct to MLS data. There's like 120 different markets. The pink ones are the ones that we're working on coming soon. The yellow ones and the gray that actually spans nationwide, but we stack the direct to MLS on top of it, and that's either third-party listing data or county record data, similar to what you would find in like a prop stream or a batch leads. That's what that data set looks like. And then we go and we negotiate these MLS contracts to improve the quality of the data, the timeliness of it, how much is included, agent information, remarks, status changes. All that stuff happens almost in real time. As often as the agent updates it, we'll see it. You can type the address of any property you want to analyze right here into the search bar. We do have a mobile optimized version of Privy, and it looks very similar. You don't have to download it from the App Store. You just log into your mobile browser, whether you use a Safari or Chrome or Edge on your phone. Just log into your account like you normally would, and then it just adjusts down. And this navigation bar moves to the top of the screen, and it just looks like an app. It basically has very, very similar functions. Type the address of any property here, and it'll auto match. So pay attention to the drop down as you're typing in, and then once you see the property that you're looking for as it's auto matching, just click it right off of here, and it will go and it will build a comparative market analysis, pull comps at that moment in time, and then it will show you the county record data, and anything else about that property, whether it's in a distressed situation like a foreclosure, or if it's vacant, or if it's an absentee owner. We apply all of that data from behind the scenes onto that comparative market analysis for you. One of the things that people use Privy for is to find discounted deals. And so we track investment activity nationwide for you. Over here on the left are the three main buckets that we have now. The easiest way to find a discounted property that could be used on people what might call like a cash deal is our strategies like wholesale, fix and flip, Burr, and but we call this fix and flip because what you're looking for are first the investor activity itself. So the easiest way to find a discounted deal is to find the unrenovated home, the house that needs some work, the house that needs has some deferred maintenance. It's in the same neighborhood as homes that were recently fix and flip. That's what creates margins. So if you are a landlord, or if you're somebody who's building a portfolio, this is still a great way to find discounted properties. And it turns out that areas that are hot and have a lot of activity are also good rental markets. Now, that's not always the case, but this strategy here could work for any exit strategy, even subject to or creative deal structures. So what we're looking at here is this map, and where you see these numbers, these are aggregation of matches for any search. It just happens to be that this is the search. So if I ran a search for on market properties for less than $500,000, the map might look very much the same. So these blue things do not have anything to do with what the results are showing. It just shows that these are the results, and we aggregate these into these clusters so you can see where the majority of those matches are at. So the larger the circle, the higher the number, the more matches there are. So when I'm looking for an area to go and do deals, oh yeah, Anya, sorry, I didn't see that to start. You found it. Good. I want to be in an area that has a lot of blue. So I want to avoid areas that don't have any activity. So if you live in one of these areas where it's low investor activity, it makes it harder for you to do consistent deal flow. It doesn't mean you couldn't do a deal there. It's just more difficult. So, there's limited hours in the day. You're probably not doing this full time. Maybe you are, but if every minute you spend on your business is very important. And so if you're spending your time banging your head against the wall, lowballing sellers, whether they're on market or off market, you're just making it more challenging on yourself. So if you want to remove some of that friction and make it easier, then you want to choose high investor activity areas. And a lot of those areas happen to be in the Midwest and on the East Coast. There are areas on the West Coast too, but again, if you're looking at market, look at some of this activity here. So Cleveland has a good amount. Look at Chicago, 4,600 deals have been, this is in the last 12 months. So a property that we think was purchased, fixed up, and sold, looks like it would be a fix and flip. This is a very hot area. Now, again, you don't have to be looking for fix and flips to use this strategy. This is just how you identify the areas, number one, to look for deals. It may not be your backyard. So don't get caught up just looking in your backyard because it's convenient. If you live in a crappy market, that could be the result of you not having success if you don't figure out a good way of getting deals in the door. Um, so an area that I would potentially do deals in would be like, look at this, Chicago, 4,600 deals. This is a comparable driven business. So you need comps to be able to prove value, whether it's for you or it's to a buyer or it's an appraiser at the end of the deal. If you're out there trying to do deals in Rolla, Missouri, it's going to make it more challenging for yourself. Yeah, Bruce, these right here, after I clicked this button right here, that's basically a templatized filter. It created the filter automatically up here, so we can look at it, and it chose sold properties that were fixed and flipped. They were purchased lower than 75% of the after repair value in the last 12 months. So that's the filter that it shows. Um, Sometimes properties fall into this bucket that weren't actually flipped because there's no data point in any data set that exists that tells us that a house was flipped. We have to infer based off of these things. So a property that goes up in value in a really short period of time that's more than what it would typically appreciate is usually a flip or what's called forced appreciation. They've put money into it. It could be a low end lipstick. It could be a full renovation. It could be a gut job. Um, so that's what this is showing. So where would you look for deals? So a few years ago, I was looking for another market outside of Colorado. I chose St. Louis, and I did virtual on-market deals in St. Louis, um, just by doing the strategy I'm showing you right now. But I was trying to decide between St. Louis, Indianapolis, and Chicago. And one of my long-term goals was to build a portfolio of rental properties. So I chose against Chicago because Illinois is not a landlord-friendly state. And St. Louis was closer to Colorado because I was going to drive out there eventually. And Indianapolis didn't have as much activity as St. Louis. So I ended up going with St. Louis. But, Indianapolis might be a good market. Cleveland could be decent. Um, we get more into the East Coast. There's not a ton of activity north of Philadelphia. There's some. Wait, what's that? 2,100. It's going to break up here in a moment. Once you get closer, it breaks up even further. So there is some activity going on up there. As you come down the coast here, you're going to see Philadelphia is actually really, really hot. Baltimore has some good activity. So once you choose a market, and again, be very conscious. Don't just choose a market because you live there or you're familiar with it. Like let the data lead you there. All right. So let's say we liked Baltimore. So Baltimore has a decent amount of activity in it. And you could do this 100% virtually too. You don't have to live there. I did several deals in St. Louis 100% virtually without having ever set foot there. And I did it using this exact strategy I'm showing you. So let's say we like this here. So right, even within the city itself, there's going to be neighborhoods because when we're thinking about doing a deal and we're using this reverse REI strategy, the goal is, okay, I want to be looking for deals where I know my comps already exist. At that point, it makes it simpler. I'd only have to find properties that need some work that I could do on my own, or I could fix and flip, or I could even keep them as rentals. So right in here, looks like there's a 23, 18. Let's get in closer to this neighborhood right here. Now, once you get below about 300 properties on the map at once, it will switch from the aggregate, the cluster view to the individual properties. And then now right here, you can see all these properties that match this filter. Now, the sort option that is set up in there, is set up to automatically show the most recent sales first. So we sort it by sold date. So the one that sold most recently will be at the top of the list. So once it switches over, these show up on the map. We actually happen to be in what's called the map view, where it's 3/4 map one quarter, maybe it's 2/3 and one third results. And then you can go over here and you can scroll down. There's a little slider bar here where you can just use your roller and you can just scroll down with your roller ball. There's a split view, which is half map, half results. So it has enough room now for 2 columns. There's a grid view, which is just properties. And then there's a list view, which just puts it in the list. And it's easier for you. You don't get the photos, but now you have a list that you can come in and you can check a bunch of properties off. You can put them into different folders. So as I start to select this function shows up where I can share multiple properties at once. I can move multiple properties into a single folder. And so those are the 4 views. Go back to the map view here. And let's look at one of these properties. So if I was to choose a new market, and even if I'm just doing stuff in my own market, a deal is different everywhere. So a deal in Baltimore is not the same thing as a deal in Los Angeles or Philadelphia or Denver. And so the way you learn what a deal is, you know how to be competitive in that market and understanding what other investors are doing to have success, review those deals. So I'm constantly reviewing sold data. Some people get bored with this, but I think it's the best way to keep your finger on the pulse of the market and really understand what your competition's doing so that you can operate within that same reality. If you only are using the 70% maximum allowable offer formula that a lot of people use, most of the time, what you end up doing is offering too little when you could actually offer more and still be competitive. So let's look at this deal. Now, one property isn't going to tell you what a deal is, but if you review the last 10, 20 properties in any given market, you'll start to get a good sense of trends. So this happens to be a direct to MLS area. So you see we've got the photos. The MLS ID here is at the bottom. We got these tags. This house is an absentee owner. It's also owned by an LLC. There's a key at the top right here with all of the tags. So these will show up on properties, and you can actually search by these filters too. They're in the filter. Pre-foreclosures, vacant, there's a bunch of different tags here. So we show those right here. You can mouse over as well, and it will pop up. Here's the property remarks, property features. Scroll down here, property details, comparables. So the system is automatically pulling comps for us. Now, right here, we only see one rental comp. There's other data here that we've hidden that didn't match what this property is. This is a 3-story, 2,300 square foot home. So if there's 2 stories in the area, 1-story homes that are not within 15% square feet of the square footage of the subject property, we hide it. Underneath the map on the left is this little button that says settings. If you click that, that opens up a drawer where you can see the criteria. Now, it's actually 10% because this is an attached home. This is a townhome. On single family detached properties, we use 15% tolerance. On condos and townhomes or row homes, we call them attached. We use a 10% tolerance. So it's very tight. And then we automatically use a half a mile radius from the center of the property to the edge. Okay, so those are all adjustable. You can adjust all this on the fly. If you want to get a sense of just how many properties are in the general area, you can click all, click save, and that essentially removes the comping algorithm, except for a couple different filters. So there were 156 sales that happened in this area that we hid because they didn't match the subject property. Like this one here was a flip. It's in the same area as is. That's good. We like to have flips in the area, but we couldn't use this as a comparable because it's too small. It's only 1,300 square feet. This is only 15. So this house, because it's unique, it doesn't have a lot of comps. So make sure that when you are looking at properties, you have a good idea of your expectations, right? Just because there's data not there doesn't mean there's something wrong. It means you might have to loosen your criteria because at the end of the day, you have to comp this property out, right? And so what might you do? Well, it says this is a 3-story, but maybe they're counting the basement. So let's include 2 stories in the comps. So I'm going to adjust the settings here. instead of doing all, let's say I'm going to increase this to 15%. And then I want to include two-story comps as well. It changes the algorithm. And let's go back in here and see what else we can adjust. Half a mile attached. Now, maybe this isn't really an attached property. So you could include single family. You can adjust for year built. You can adjust the sold date range. Out of the box, the sold date range is 8 months. But you might think, okay, well, 8 months is too far back. Let's only go, back to 6 months. So maybe we go 820. So all this is adjustable. Okay. The other thing that we do is we show you the before and after on the flip itself. So if this property was purchased off market, which this one was, it will say public records in this. As long as it's MLS data, it'll say public records here. And then we'll have the street view, not the MLS photos, because it was purchased off market, right? On the right here is the after photos. So we can see what kind of construction they did, what kind of materials they used. And we can see the numbers. So they bought it for 132,000. They sold it for 314,000. They had an $182,000 gross profit. Gross means we don't know what they spent on it, right? So if we knew how much they spent, we could maybe even estimate it if we wanted to really dig deep. Then 314,000, I'm sorry, 182,000 minus the cost would be the net profit, right? That's on their own books. Timelines. So it was under construction for 87 days, the day from when they bought it to when they put the house back on the market. 87 days of marketing, days on market. And then 174 days total hold time between when they bought it and when they put the check in the bank. Jim, all the sold comps automatically save into the CMA itself. So once you get the version you want here, either by editing what's here, like maybe you want to change the comp zone or you want to change the massage the comps. Once you have it the way it is, all you do is you just click to save it. You can either favorite it into your favorite folder. You can click the little three dots right here, and this is how you can put it into a list. Once you save it into a folder, or even if you just type the address in again down the line, it will show you that comparative market analysis that they automatically save into it. So if I want to put this into a folder, I click Manage Lists. If my folder already exists, then I just check the box next to the name. If it doesn't, I click Add New List. And I might call this Baltimore stuff. Now my Baltimore stuff folder is here. Click Save. And now it saves into it. So everything in this comparative market analysis is now saved, including the comps. And then you can share this comparative market analysis with someone by clicking the share button. Just type in the email address of the person you want to send it to, and it'll send them a link, a live link to this comparative market analysis. And then they'll see what you want them to see. So if you remove comps, if you change the comp zone, if you edited it at all, they will only see that. And so some of the use cases on that could be maybe you will use it to market a wholesale deal. If you're a flipper and you're sending it to your hard money lender for them to review the comparables and verify how much they'll be willing to lend or which loan product it fits. If you're sending it to an agent to set up a showing, if you're an agent, you could send these to your clients. So the link to this comparative market analysis is live. That's why we call it a live CMA. So if I save a property and then I go back and look at it a month from now, it will look different because it's going to show the comps based off of that time period, not today's comps. So the comps evolve, they change. So even the statuses. So maybe I've got, two active comps, eight sold comps, and a pending. Well, if a month from now, everything might be sold. So that maybe all of them are sold at that point, and maybe there's one new active one that wasn't there before. So this change is live, which is extremely helpful because in the world outside of Privy, people are creating PDFs and they're creating spreadsheets of comps and they don't change. So you're always having to pull new comparables every time you're getting close to you maybe making an offer or you're negotiating with the seller. And that can take some time. So you need those live comparables. Here's another property that was flipped. Okay, let's see if we can find one that has good numbers. This one was another off-market deal. So part of the research is understanding what percentage of ARV you want to be at to be competitive. Part of it is like I can't remember who it was earlier, was talking about doing wholesaling, is building a buyer's list. So in the public record in the assessors section, you'll see the property history and who flipped these things. So this property was flipped 12/19/24, and the seller was Philip Shriver. And they sold it to this company right here, which looks like they probably turned it into a rental. But Philip would be the flipper on that property. So if I wanted to do business with a wholesaler, I'm sorry, with a flipper and I'm a wholesaler, then pay attention to who the flippers are, because every one of these people could be a potential buyer on your buyer's list. Let's see here. This property looks like it. Okay, it's sold. I can't. Oh, Balto Harlem LLC. They combined Baltimore and Harlem. So Balto Harlem LLC. They bought it from Lee and Joyce Inc. Now all this information is downloadable. So somebody was talking earlier about lists. Once you have the results, you can download those lists, this result into a CSV file. So I can click download and it says, okay, I would be downloading 196 properties. It downloads the subject property information, price, address, some details on the sold price, square footage, stuff like that. It'll tell you the owner, the current owner. It'll tell you who the previous owner was. So all the information you need to be able to go and skip trace and create a list. Somebody was asking about contact information earlier. If you're looking to build a buyer's list, this is the way that I did it when I first started doing wholesale deals in St. Louis, is I would go in and I would download a list every week. And then the first one list was larger because I hadn't done it yet. But then after every week, it was only 3 or 4 new flips. But I was adding those people to my buyer's list and reaching out to them. And we allow you to download up to 10,000 records per month for free with your Privy account. There's no additional charge. So all these properties, I'm doing my research, I'm building my buyer's list, I'm learning what a deal is. I'm maybe even seeing who the investor-friendly agents are. I started to notice a name popping up a lot when I was doing my research in St. Louis, this woman named Nika. And I reached out to her and I asked her if she wanted to help me out. And she said, yeah. And so she eventually um, became my agent. But here's a property that we saw that the last two we looked at were purchased off market. This one was purchased from the MLS. And so there is an opportunity there to get on market deals at pretty good discounts if you know how to do the strategy, right? Which is what I'm showing you. You need to find these unrenovated houses that are down the street or are comparables of flipped comps. And look how deep they got this house. They bought it for 105, sold it for 430. This is an on-market deal. They got it at 24% of the after repair value. Ridiculous. Now they probably spent $150,000 on this reno, but they grossed 325. Took them forever. It took them longer than a year from when they bought it to when they put the check in the bank, including marketing and everything. It took them over a year to do this deal. But I mean, let's say they made 100 grand on it. That's not a bad year for just flipping one house. That's more than the average American makes. Um, so this one was a pretty good project. And then property history here, Maven Homes. Flip this. So Maven Homes is a company I'd want to do with. Part of the reason why I would want to do business with them is because Maven Homes is willing to buy stuff from the MLS. So if part of my strategy is identifying on-market deals that I can get under contract at a good discount to have good comps, and I can wholesale those, Maven Homes would be a good potential partner because there are flippers out there who are just hell bent on only doing off-market deals, even though based off of the data, more than half of all properties that are done come from the MLS. Some people are still hell bent on just doing things the hard way. So if you can find a good strategy and you can use Privy to find on-market deals, which I'm going to show you here in a moment, that you can buy, renovate, wholesale, it can be a lot less expensive because it doesn't require any marketing dollars, doesn't require any sales skills. You don't have to have, um, an extensive marketing background to do pay-per-click advertising or knock on doors or, follow up or hire VAs to do outreach. You don't have to build a bunch of lists. That stuff can work. And I know a lot of people that are successful with it, but it's a long game. Count on 6 months, have good reserves. Um, you're gonna have to be really good on the phone, good at sales. You're gonna have a really good CRM because it's gonna take 7 to 12 touches to finally get a person on the phone and have the ability to close them. But you can find some good deals off market. But I would suggest if you are going to do off market deals, have a pretty good on market strategy so that you can make offers consistently while you're working all those off market leads because it does, again, takes time. And that skill of being able to get in contact, talk with them, extract the problem that you can help them solve, and then close them with an offer that's a win-win where you can get it a deep enough discount and they walk away thinking that your problem is solved. You could be submitting on-market offers. So if you want to do an on-market deal, we set up this filter called Find Similar Active Deals. Now this is now patented. I think maybe some of you heard last time, but we finally got our patent on our comparative search, which essentially uses these closed deals as a model for what a successful deal looks like, and then we reverse engineer it. And so you can run that algorithm by clicking one button. So Privy just went in and it analyzed all these properties, and it's looking for opportunities we can buy right now that are similar to the ones that have closed. So this house right here just came on the market today. It's 59 grand. It's an absentee owner, cash buyer, meaning they own it free and clear. It's an LLC. It's vacant. And it's zombie property. Zombie property is actually just the same thing as absentee owner and vacant, but we show those because sometimes it is you run a filter using a zombie property filter. Let's look at the photos. Definitely needs a lot of love, right? This is the kinds of properties that we want. So if a house doesn't need any work, it's really difficult to make the numbers work because the only way you can make the numbers work is to lowball. The 59 grand. If we scroll down here into the comparable section, look at all that blue. So the more blue you see when a property is identified as a potential deal, the more data there is that will support that the numbers make sense. Now, right out of the gates, I noticed something. See, our comp zone crosses over this major road down here because the default distance is a half a mile. But we have a drawing tool right here in the upper right-hand corner that is gray, and then once you mouse over it, it turns blue. You click it, the mouse changes over to cross hairs, and now I can draw. And I'm going to draw a new comp zone, cutting it off on major roads. So I click and hold. It starts to draw this blue line. I'm holding this whole time. I'm going to cut off right here on 40. And then once I draw my new comp zone, it will automatically eliminate any properties that are outside that zone from the map view, but also any houses that were south of the 40 here have been removed from the table view as well. They're no longer in the table view. So there's 33 investment comps. So investment comps are basically when you run a deal filter inside of Privy, they're the comps that tell us that this house that we're looking at matches our deal criteria. Now, the deal criteria that is standardized in that button that I clicked is 75% or lower. That might be a deal. 75% might be a deal in Los Angeles, but probably not in Baltimore because the prices are lower and every area is different, right? Now, I didn't do like full market research in Baltimore right before we got into looking for deals. But let's say I established that we needed to be lower than 54%, right? Based off of us doing our research. So 54% of ARV, if you're newer, is what it means. So let's say a flip in this neighborhood goes for around 200 grand. So 200,000 times 0.54 means that we need to get this property lower than $108,000 for the numbers to make sense. All right. So it's doing that math for you. So it's going to look at the price of the comps, the price of the properties that are listed, and it's going to run those numbers for you. Now, you can also add other buy box criteria or your buying criteria into the comparative market analysis. So let's say you were a flipper and you got qualified up to a loan amount of 220,000. Let's say you were going to keep this as a rental property and you wanted at least a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Maybe you did not want to be in an area that has an HOA, or you want a house that has a basement so you can add more value. You can really dig deep here. Now, this could be your buying criteria, or if you're a wholesaler, it could be the buying criteria of your buyers. Once you start to build a buyer's list, the next thing you're going to be doing is reaching out to buyers and having conversations about them about what their criteria is. And so part of the criteria is, yeah, how much of a discount they want, but also it's what area, property type, property style, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. You can essentially replicate their buy box here in Privy, and you can save that search, and Privy will constantly monitor these areas for you, and it will email you properties that match that criteria as often as they're found. So if I save this search, I could call this, well, that's the Baltimore deals, and I can get alerts up to every hour. So I typically set it at daily. So I'm just getting an email in the morning with all the new matches. But if you're really active, you could look at your email in the morning and there might be 2 new properties, but by lunch there might be 2 new ones. And so sometimes it's speed of lead to get a property locked up. And if you're just checking once a day or just whenever it's convenient, you could miss out on opportunities. So choose a timeline that makes sense for you. Click save. And then that will send you email alerts right to your inbox. The same email that you use to register for Privy, that's the email it's going to go to. So let's look at this property right here. So I changed it. I changed it from 75 to 54%. So that means this house still has data that says it's a deal. Now, remember earlier I said the easiest way to find a deal is to find a house that needs some work that's in the same neighborhood as flips. Well, all those houses that were red on the map before are flips. And if they have similar property characteristics as our subject property, meaning similar bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, then they could be comps. And that's how you really streamline this process, is just to think a few steps ahead. If I could find a house that needs work in the same area that where there's renovations, and a lot of the houses are the same, they have similar characteristics, and the chances of me having a house that's in the same neighborhood that has flipped comps goes up. So wherever you see this before and after. So the first number is what they bought it for. The second number is they sold it for. Now, make sure you're conscious of that investment comps pulls in all the comparables, regardless of the status. So this one, these two right here are active comparables. This one's sold. These are pending comparables. So there's a mixture here because these properties are special in the way that they support our deal criteria, regardless of the act of the status. And then we got a bunch that were flipped. So we got lots of flips here. Now, some people confuse investments meaning with all properties that were done by investors. So this investment comp tag does not mean that every house that's part of this comp set was flipped. It means that the math works. So remember I said it for 52 or 54%, right? What it does is it takes all of the comps and gets rid of all the ones that are too big, too small, too far away, the ones that are not true comparables. We eliminate those from the comp set, and then we look at the prices of the ones that remain. And then we do the math. We divide the price of the comp into the price of the subject property, and then we give you the math. So right here in this percentage of ARV column, anything here that has a percentage of ARV that would be calculated to be lower than 54% is going to show up in this blue section. So this is proprietary to Privy. This is part of our comparative market analysis algorithm that we got patented. So everything here supports it. All lower than 54%. So there's a ton of data here that says this is worth going for. Now, what I would typically do is because there's a lot here, is sort by distance. So you can sort any column here just by clicking that, and it will sort first by the closest to furthest. And then I can reverse it by clicking it again, and it's going to be furthest to closest. But I want the ones that are closer because now we're starting to rank which of these comps are going to support what we're trying to do the most. So it turns out the two closest comps are actually active. Now, some people say, oh, you can't use active comps or pending. That's not true. You absolutely can. You don't want to make a buying decision solely on active, under contract, or pending comparables. They're good supporting data. You want to base a good buying decision or offer off of sold comps because you know the final price. But there's some things that you could infer on some of these other ones that are pending or active. So like this one that's active, it's for 190. It's been on the market for 208 days. This essentially is irrelevant. They're way off on this. So I would just hide that one. This one's 160. I'm going to hide that one too. Now this could just be a function of the market, but this one that finally went pending, 219 days. So one thing to look at here is when did it finally go into contract? So that we have the section down here that has the history. And so this is interesting. So we have 219 total from when they first listed it last year, but they did a price reduction to 219 and then it went under contract within 10 days. So, oh, and it actually went 235. That's interesting. It went up in price from the list price. Now that is not uncommon. You didn't see it much the last few years, but it used to happen a lot years ago when people would try to roll in their closing costs. So they would offer more than what the seller, well, first they would ask the seller to include closing costs in the purchase price. And the seller would be like, no, this is our number. And they'd be like, all right, well, we'll offer you more. Now will you pay the closing costs? And they're like, yeah, as long as I can net, 220. That's what I need. So then now these guys could get 15 grand for closing costs. That might be why this went up in price. But under contracts you can use. But sold are the ones that you're going to want to really, really look at. So this one right here is interesting. So this says it's a 4-1. I wonder if it really is a 4-1. But some of the good comps here is this one went for 248, 224. This is going to be maybe like 220 because of the concessions. But if we can get another couple bathrooms in this house, then the after repair value on this house that is on market is going to be maybe around 30% when it's all said and done. That's pretty good. That's a good deal. And the cool thing about this property right here is that we didn't have to do any marketing to find it. And if we save this search and we're just checking our email inbox, you don't even have to be in the system every day to find properties like this. This one would be an amazing wholesale deal, a fix and flip. It could be a good rental property, right? Here's the rental comps. So if you are a landlord yourself, or if you're a wholesaler and you want to sell to landlords, make sure you use this rental data. What's cool about our rental data set is that we get this from a data partner that has the largest rental data set in the US, and it comes from property management companies. So that's really powerful because you can look at a property and be like, okay, well, that property actually rented for, 2,300 a month. Um, what I want to say something here about this tag right here. So this tag is proprietary. It's called Privy Preferred. And what it's telling us is that this house that we found not only has properties that are give that when the comps are compared and the ratio matches lower than 54%, it's also telling us that we have these flipped comps. So if we have at least one comparable that says this thing's a deal, and that house has before and after data and was likely flipped, then we add this tag to it because that makes this a more viable deal than if we had a property that was at 59 grand and they say there were three comps and they were like these ones down here that weren't flipped, or we couldn't see the data to think they were flipped. Then that tag doesn't show up. This tag only shows if we have at least one property that gives us the percentage that's lower than what we use in the filter and has at least one property where it looks like it was flipped. We'll add this Privy Preferred tag because the easiest way to prove after repair value on your house is to show a comp that was flipped, right? And so this one would float to the surface as one. So this one looks good, right? So I would save this to my favorites folder. Maybe I'm going to come back to it. Here's another one. It's 69 grand. This one's in better condition than the other one. Looks like it's occupied. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. Look at the comps. There's not as many on this one. So there's only 5 properties that says this is a deal. Or it looks like 6, as opposed to the last one, which was like 20. Ugo, go ahead. What's your question? Feel free to unmute yourself or you can drop it in the chat. You there, Ugo? I see your hand went up.
Yes. My question is not based on the information you're sharing, but also on the platform. I was wondering, is there a way to download Realtor data automatically?
Download rental data?
No, Realtors that list fix and flips. If there's a way to get their information. I know some of these properties have the information. Is there a downloadable file to
No,
retrieve?
you can't download the realtor data into a CSV file. So
Okay.
if you have a list of properties, the agent info will be at the bottom, but our MLS agreements don't allow us to just sell realtor data. That's against our compliance rules.
Okay.
So a little bit extra work there, but I actually, not right now, but I had at one point a VA going and I would pull my list and then she would just do some research and find all the contact information for me.
Okay.
James, what's your question?
Hey, Mr. Benson, how you doing, sir?
Good. How you been?
I've been doing good, good. Here's my question. Here's my question. On where you are right now, you can go down and save your search, right?
Yeah, when you're in the filter,
In the filter, right?
you can
Okay,
click
now,
save search.
once you save that saved search will come to your email address uh, at some point the next day or whenever, right?
Yeah, it will email you whenever there's a new match. So
Okay,
if
now,
so the first time you save it, you might get a bunch of them because it's the first time. Then after that first day, and if it's running every day, it'll only show you when there's a new match. So if you've got tight criteria on the search, you may not get an email for days. So be conscious of, the criteria there, and it will email you whenever something new is found based off of which frequency you set up right here.
gotcha. Now, if you will go all the way over to your left-hand side over there, you have list and then you have search, right? All the way to your left over there.
Mm-hmm.
So you got list right there and then you got search right there, right?
Yep.
Okay, now here's what I'm noticing is that when I save the search and it comes to my email address, I don't find that many good deals. Now, but when I come to search right here, what search right here does is that when you have that file, the files that you got right there in front of you right here, when you
Mm-hmm.
come down to Joe Home Buyer as an example, those properties there will come up where the property in your email search may not come up. You follow me?
They should be the same.
Yeah, but they're not the same though. But what happened, here's what happened though. What happened is that when you come over here to this search here, you get more deals than you get from the email. Like say an example on Joe Home Buyers
Yeah.
renters right there. Okay, so that actually supposed to come to your email list, right?
Well, it doesn't send the whole list every day. It just sends the new ones. So this one is always
Okay.
going to be more.
Yeah, okay, that's the point I'll get into. And so the question is, yeah, good. That's what I'll get into. So the question becomes, if I did not, because it seems like to me I'm wasting a lot of time in the email going through 2,000 entries, 2,000 lists. But instead of going to the email, if I came here directly to Joe, I'll see 20, 30 for Joe, but over there in the email, I don't see none, or maybe I see one or two. So would it make sense, or rather the question may be, can I get rid of the searches in my email and keep Joe's search over here?
You can, yeah. So what you're
I,
experiencing, like I said, is you're only getting sent the new stuff. So if you're
okay,
if you're diligent and you check every day, then you'll see that the ones that are in Joe Home Buyer Search, because if I come here and click it, it will run it live. And it's going to show me every match, even going back to stuff that is maybe was emailed to you 3 weeks ago. It'll still show that as long as it still matches the search if it hasn't sold yet. But if nothing new showed up in your inbox for 4 days, you could run this 4 days in a row and it'd be the same. No, there'd be no new properties
okay,
that match that search, right? Because you only get emailed the new one. So if you want to eliminate the emails, if you just think you don't like that format, then if I were to save the search,
okay.
let's say save as, because this one's already saved, right? So that's why this new button shows up. So when you are saving the same property, maybe in a different way, maybe you tweak one little thing, the save as button shows up because it's going to be it's going to be a
Okay,
copy
save
plus
as.
something different. And if I don't want emails, I just click never.
Oh,
And then it won't send you an email. And then if you just want to come in and run the Joe homebuyer search manually because you like that
okay,
format, then you won't get emails, but you can still run the search without having to go and recreate it every time. Now you could come in and just recreate it every time, or if you just click save and it's saved to never, and you put never, then you won't get email alerts.
okay. That's good. That's good because now, because what happened, I got 2,000 say search over there in email, but if I say never, I may only get say 100 emails. I'm just guessing.
Well,
So
if
that,
you have multiple searches, right? If you have, you won't get any emails if they're all set to never.
okay, no emails, but I still can search through the search portal here.
Yep, you just come to the search
Okay,
and you can just click the filter. So if I click sold flips St. Petersburg, it's going to run that search in real time, all the matches. But if it's set to never, I won't get emails on this search. It'll just
okay.
run in live in real time when I click that search from the folder.
Good, because I waste so much time looking at the emails that I never find too much good stuff in there. But when I come over in the search, okay, guys, is good. I appreciate that. That's good, helpful information right there.
Cool. You're welcome. All right, you guys, we're up against the hour here. Any final questions before we wrap up?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Awesome. I noticed that you have very good data for the fix and flips by each city, and then you get all the information. I was wondering, is there a filter to be able to differentiate between the properties that were actually fixed and ones that actually do need fixing? Is there a way to do that, or do I have to manually do it?
You mean so properties that you can buy that need fixing?
Yes, the fix and flip filter that you have here, fix and flip filter 75%. Usually when I pull that list, it has properties that need work as well as properties that are already fixed up. I was asking, is there a way I can only get the ones that do need work? Is there something I can?
No, that's where the filter is just looking for the discount. So
Right.
we don't know if a house needs work or doesn't need work. The only way you can find that out through, for sure, is to look at the photos and see if it needs work or doesn't need work. But a house may show up in a filter that says it could be fixed and flipped when it doesn't. But what makes it show up there is the comps. So this house right here, like this is brand new, right? If there was a comp of this house, and let's say we wanted to get it again at say 54%, if there was a true comparable, even though this house is renovated already, and it's sold for over $2.6 million, we'll flag this house as a deal. But it's only doing it because of the data. But when you look at a house and maybe this comp was on the ocean, right? This might be a good use case. Like maybe this house is 0.5 miles in, but there's a house that's actually in the ocean that sold for over that 2.6 million. Well, then this house will be flagged as a deal. And then you have to look at it with your own two eyes and decide whether or not it truly is a deal. But we're only showing you those based off of the data. The data has to have those margins. Otherwise, we wouldn't flag a house that didn't need work to look at. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I'll give this recording to our CS team, Anya. We haven't been posting recordings of trainings recently, but I'll see. This one was good. I think we had a good, overall training of just kind of beginning to end in different parts of the software. So I'll see if she can post this for us. But traditionally, we don't post all of them. They just start to stack up and it becomes kind of a nightmare to manage. But thank you, everybody, for showing up. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
See you.